The focal point of the video today is going to be the one and only former Sixth Man of the Year on the Utah Jazz, Jordan Clarkson, who at the age of 32 isn't getting any younger, and after last season, things are putting him in a little bit of a weird space. With that being said, it's your boy Ray. Thanks for tuning in this video. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. I cover NBA basketball just about every day. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop into this one. Jordan Clarkson is known to be one of the more prolific scorers off of the bench, and while he does leave a lot to be desired on the defensive side of the ball, particularly last season where he showed a certain level of regression that was not expected, he has the ability to fill up the stat sheet on any given night and really give a lot of teams a quality boost off the bench from the scoring metric categories. However, the main issue that we find ourselves experiencing is the fact that while he does have a very team-friendly contract thanks to the Jazz having re-signed him at the end of his last deal and front-loading his money in that deal, he didn't play very well last season. As a matter of fact, from an efficiency standpoint, he shot the worst from the field in his entire career, to the tune of 41.3% from the field and 29.4% from three-point range. For reference, he has never shot underneath 31% from three-point range, and that was during his rookie year and then in the 2021-2022 season. He ended up taking less threes than he typically did over the past 7 or 8 seasons as well, going down from the previous year of 7.5 down to 5.6 and hitting one less overall three. From the field goal standpoint, he shot 14.8 last year, which was down from the 16.9 the previous year, but he also went down from 7.5 made field goals down to 6.1, which effectively tells you that he was still getting a significant number of shots, but they just were not falling. And it was apparent early on. You would know if you were watching the games last year that he did end up playing in a significant number, but he also had a couple of injury issues, and then it became a time period closer to the end of the season where the games were just lost to begin with, and so a lot of the younger guys got to play, and then he just collected a bunch of DNPs. He played in total 55 games and started in 19 of them. During that period of time, though, he really, for lack of better phrasing, was bad. And it started at the beginning of the season because he was alongside Keontae George. And in that backcourt, things did not look good and they did not get better. And it wasn't until he actually was injured that it allowed Collin Sexton to take a step up into his role. And then Collin Sexton just kind of blew the job out of the water. It wasn't all terrible for Jordan Clarkson, though, as in total he did have his third highest scoring total per game in his career for a nightly basis, but his turnovers as a result were also the second highest of his career, only second to the year before where he had 3 turnovers per game. This year he had 2.7. He put together a campaign of 17.1 points, 3.4 rebounds, 5 assists, 0.6 steals, 0.1 blocks, and overall shooting splits of 41.3, 29.4, and 88.1. Now his free throws were pretty solid, all things considered, and he shot 3.7 attempts per game, which was a sizable enough advantage to understand that he hasn't fallen off a cliff from a shooting standpoint. A lot of his shots were just tough shots. Some of his shots were shots he just shouldn't have taken, and then other ones were just shooter's misses, which does happen. And the fact that he managed to do this over 55 games, I believe, is the most concerning part for other teams, and concerning the fact that there's so much money that's already been used up. Even though he's on a team-friendly deal, it becomes a question of, at the age of 32, what can he offer other teams? What can he offer contenders? Because he's not a net positive defensively. In fact, he's been a pretty abysmal negative at times. He's not a terrific communicator, and last year, like I said, he regressed greatly compared to the season before, where he was pretty tolerable on that side of the ball. Combine that with the fact that he's extremely turnover prone, and things don't necessarily look better. To credit him, though, one responsibility that he was expected to uphold was to be more of a playmaker last year, which is something that obviously, if you're a sixth man, isn't probably going to be your strongest suit. His strongest suit and his ace in the sleeve has always been his scoring sense. So when you force the guy who's always had the scoring mentality and tell him that he needs to start swinging the ball and making pristine, crisp passes when that's never been something that's been strong on his game, it gets really rough. To the tune of his rookie year, he had 3.5 assists. His sophomore year, he had 2.4, and then it ebbed and flowed between 2, 3, 1, 2, 1 when he first came over to Utah. And then he had 2.5, 2.5, 4.4 last year, which was his previous career high. And then the most recent season, he had 5, which, while it was a career high, also led to a high number of turnovers. But it was still technically less than what he experienced the previous year, because the previous year he had 3 turnovers to that 4.4 assists. So overall, he was more efficient than he was the previous year, but his shooting percentage just dropped. And because the defense regressed as well, things didn't really look very good for him. Now, I would not consider myself by any stretch of the imagination to be a Jordan Clarkson hater. I believe that he does have a large number of tremendous qualities about his own game. And in the right environments, he has had moments where he's shown great flashes. He's not done. I refuse to believe that he's just cooked and he's washed and he doesn't need to play another NBA game. I would like to see him play on a contending team to close out his career, just because it's really one of those times where at the age of 32, he's got a good couple years left. His game isn't based on being extremely fast or extremely bouncy, so that does help. He's more of a shooting kind of guy, a floater kind of guy, a turnaround kind of guy, which is nice to see and refreshing. And it should allow him to be effective in his career a little bit later than some players tend to be. But considering where the Utah Jazz are going, this year is going to be a year where he has the opportunity to rebuild his value by shooting well from the field, even though the rest of the rookies and everybody else is going to be kind of having up and down years. You'll have Colin Sexton, though. You'll have Larry Markkinen, and they'll get theirs. But for the rest of the team, it's going to be them proving that they deserve to be on the Utah Jazz roster. And then also for some others like John Collins and Jordan Clarkson, just proving that they deserve to play somewhere so that they do have the value that will allow them to go join another squad if Danny Ainge and that front office elect to trade them. And I believe that they would if they could, just to go ahead and keep that minutes issue out of the entire equation. But that thing just hasn't happened yet. And it was reported that by Andy Lawson, nobody in the league, at least from a front office standpoint, wants to pick up Jordan Clarkson. There's no market for him. Nobody cares to trade for him. Everybody just kind of shrugs their shoulders. They're like, oh, Jordan? Okay, cool. And that's it, which can be very deflating if you're Jordan Clarkson, but I do believe that he will have a bounce back season. He won't shoot, 48% from the field and 38% from 3, but if he can go back to shooting around 44-ish%, 45% from the field and 34% from 3, then I think that would be a very lovely spot for him to be. And he really doesn't have to do it on a significant number of minutes or a significant number of shot attempts. He just needs to do it efficiently to the tune of the offense that is already in place, while helping lead the young guys for what it's worth until his time either ends in Utah or he gets re-signed and they just roll the dice and let him play out the remainder of his career until he becomes more of a Udonis Haslem type of player that eventually fades off into the background. But neither here nor there. I believe that Jordan Clarkson has served his purpose in Utah, and he is a fan favorite for a reason. He's very enjoyable to watch at times when he's hitting. When he's losing, it's not necessarily the greatest, but in his mind, he genuinely believes that he's that guy, and he's a stylish guy at that. I enjoy his runway walk-ups to the stadium each and every game, and we can't forget that he had the first triple-double in, if memory serves me right, it was 17 years, just about, in Utah Jazz history. So he does have his name written and etched all across the history books of the Jazz. And he's also just been a staple, and he is currently the longest tenured player on this roster, going back to the Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert days. So he does have a certain energy about himself that kind of pulls at the heartstrings. But if you're a Utah Jazz fan, let me know what you think about Jordan Clarkson. If you're a fan of another team, would you want to trade for Jordan Clarkson since his usage and his overall worth is really at an all-time low? Or would you like to see him play out a year and prove that he is deserving of playing on a more prepared and a better winning roster later on down the road? But Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. It's your boy Wraith Hoops. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, become a member, or drop a donation to help support the content. And as always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.